Captain Jake Morrison stood at the big window of his ship and watched the last human transport disappear into the stars. His hands shook a little as he turned away from the sight. After 40 years of living among aliens who called them friends, but treated them like dangerous animals, humanity had made a choice that shocked everyone. They were leaving the galaxy forever. The decision came after what people called the Zalarian Trade War. It was not really a war at all. Some human colonies had found good planets to live on, and they built homes and farms there. But the Zalarian Empire said those planets belonged to them, even though no Zalarian had ever lived there. When the Zalarians sent warships to take the colonies by force, the humans fought back to protect their families. The humans won every battle because they were better at fighting. But that made things worse. All the alien races in the Galactic Council said the humans were too violent and dangerous. They said humans always wanted to fight and take things from others. This was not true, but the aliens believed it anyway. Ambassador Lisa Grant tried to explain the truth to the Council many times. She was a small woman with gray hair who always spoke in a calm voice. She told them that humans only fought when someone attacked them first. She said humans wanted peace more than anything else. But the aliens would not listen. They were afraid of humans because humans were good at war, even though humans did not want war. The final meeting in the council chambers was something Lisa would never forget. She stood at the speaking platform while thousands of aliens looked down at her with angry eyes. The Altarian Elder Vex spoke first. He was very tall with blue skin and 4 arms. His voice was loud and full of hate. "The human species has shown its true nature," Elder Vex said. "They are violent creatures who solve every problem with weapons. They have no place in our peaceful galaxy. We demand they be removed from all positions of power and banned from settling new worlds." Many other aliens agreed with Elder Vex. The bird-like Kavari flapped their wings and made angry sounds. The rock-like granites hit the floor with their heavy hands. Only a few species stayed quiet, like the gentle Miralans who looked sad, but said nothing. Lisa listened to all the angry words. Then she walked to the center of the chamber and spoke in her calm voice. "We came to join your galaxy in peace. We offered friendship and help to all who needed it. We shared our knowledge and our strength to make life better for everyone. But you have decided we are your enemies, not your friends." She paused and looked around at all the alien faces. "We will not fight you about this. We will not start a war to prove we belong here. Instead, we will do something that might surprise you. We will leave, all of us. We will take our ships and our people and go to empty space where we can live in peace." The chamber became very quiet. Many aliens looked surprised because they expected humans to fight back or argue more. But Lisa just stood there with dignity and continued speaking. "We are giving you exactly what you want. A galaxy without humans. We hope you will be happy and peaceful without us. We will not bother you again." Then she turned and walked out of the chamber. Her shoes made small, clicking sounds on the floor that seemed very loud in the silence. Behind the scenes, Dr. Kevin Palmer was working fast to pack up everything humans had built in the galaxy. He was the head of the Human Medical Center where human doctors had created medicines that helped many alien species. Kevin and his team spent weeks copying all their research and packing up their equipment. "If they do not want us here, they do not get to keep the things we made," Kevin told his assistant, Dr. Mary Brooks. She nodded as she carefully packed vials of medicine that could cure diseases no alien doctor knew how to treat. The same thing happened in every human facility across the galaxy. Engineer Carol Mason shut down the hyperspace safety systems she had designed. Captain Roy Henderson closed the shipping routes that human navigators had mapped. Professor Dan White packed up his teaching materials and said goodbye to his alien students, many of whom cried because they would miss him. Some aliens began to worry as they watched humans pack up and leave. A young Zalarian named Crix had learned much from Professor Dan White. He ran to the spaceport as the professor was boarding his ship. "Professor White, please do not go," Crix said with tears in his eyes. "You taught me how to be brave and how to think about hard problems. Who will teach me now?" Dan White put his hand on the young alien's shoulder. "You already know how to be brave, Crix. You just need to remember what I taught you. Be kind to others, even when they are not kind to you. Always try to understand before you judge, and never give up on peace even when others choose war." Then the professor got on his ship and flew away, leaving Crix standing alone at the spaceport. Captain Jake Morrison was one of the last humans to leave. His job was to make sure every human had safely escaped from the galaxy. He flew from planet to planet, checking that no one was left behind. On each world, he found empty buildings and closed facilities where humans used to work and live. On Vega Prime, he found the empty hospital where Dr. Susan Brooks had saved thousands of alien lives with her blood-making machines. The machines were gone now, packed up and taken away. The alien doctors who remained did not know how to build new ones. On Kepler Station, he saw the closed security office where Admiral Pete Walsh had planned the operations that kept space pirates away from trade routes. Without the human patrol ships, the pirates were already starting to return. As Jake's ship prepared to make the final jump to hyperspace, he received a message from Elder Vex. The alien leader's voice did not sound as confident as it had in the council chambers. "Captain Morrison, perhaps we can discuss terms for some humans to stay. We do not need all humans to leave. Some could remain to help with certain technical matters." Jake looked at the message screen for a long moment. Then he typed back a simple reply. "Elder Vex, you made your choice clear. You want a galaxy without humans. Now you have it. We wish you peace and happiness." He turned off the communication system and gave the order to jump to hyperspace. The last human ship disappeared from known space, leaving behind a galaxy that thought it had solved all its problems. But in the empty facilities and silent machines humans had left behind, the real problems were just beginning. The aliens had gotten exactly what they asked for. Soon, they would learn that sometimes getting what you want is the worst thing that can happen to you. The great human exodus was complete. Now, the galaxy would discover what peace without humans really meant. 2 years had passed since the last human ship disappeared into the darkness beyond the galaxy. Elder Vex of the Altarian Empire sat in his office reading reports, and for the first time since the human exodus, he was not smiling. The papers in front of him told a story he did not want to believe. The first disaster happened at the Corvani asteroid mines. The Corvani were good at digging rocks from space, but they were not good at keeping miners safe. When humans lived in the galaxy, a woman named Commander Zara Kelton had written safety rules for all the mining operations. Her rules had kept workers alive for 20 years. But after the humans left, the Corvani decided they did not need human safety rules anymore. They thought the rules slowed down their work and cost too much money. So they threw away Zara's safety manuals and went back to their old ways of mining. The first accident happened at Mining Station 7. A worker hit a gas pocket while drilling, and the gas caught fire. In the old days, Zara's emergency systems would have put out the fire in 30 seconds, but those systems were gone now. The fire spread through the whole station, and 47 miners died. 2 weeks later, Mining Station 12 had an equipment failure. The big machines that crushed rocks broke down and started shooting metal pieces everywhere. Zara's safety shields would have protected the workers, but the Corvani had removed them to make room for more equipment. 19 workers died, and many more were hurt badly. The worst accident happened at the main mining station in the Corvani home system. A rookie pilot crashed his cargo ship into the station's fuel tanks. The explosion was so big it could be seen from 3 planets away. Over 200 miners died and the station was completely destroyed. Corvani mining chief Gorek stood in the ruins of his station and finally understood what they had lost. "Get me those human safety manuals," he told his assistant. "Get me everything the humans wrote about mining safety." But it was too late. The manuals were gone, taken away with the humans. Even if they still had the papers, none of the Corvani really understood how Zara's systems worked. They only knew that when humans were around, miners did not die so often. The medical crisis started small, but grew quickly. Dr. Susan Brooks had invented a machine called the Universal Blood Synthesizer. This machine could make any type of blood that any alien species needed. Before Susan built her machines, many aliens died because hospitals could not find the right type of blood to save them. Susan's machines had been working perfectly for 15 years. They saved thousands of lives every month across the galaxy. But machines need care and fixing, and only human doctors knew how to repair the blood synthesizers. The first machine broke down at Vega General Hospital. The alien doctors tried to fix it themselves, but they only made it worse. Soon the machine stopped working completely. The hospital called for help, but there were no human doctors left to answer. One by one, the blood machines across the galaxy started failing. Some broke down completely, while others started making blood that was not quite right. Alien patients who received the bad blood became sick or died. Dr. Tix of the Vegan Medical Authority tried everything he could think of. He took apart a broken machine and studied every piece. He read all the instruction books the humans had left behind. But the machines were too complex for alien doctors to understand. "These devices are beyond our knowledge," Dr. Tix admitted to his staff. "Without human doctors to maintain them, they are just expensive boxes that take up space in our hospitals." The alien doctors tried to go back to the old ways of collecting blood from donors, but this was slow and dangerous. Many hospitals ran out of blood completely. Patients who would have lived with Susan's machines began dying because there was no blood to save them. But the worst problems were in space. Captain Roy Henderson had spent years mapping the safest and fastest routes between star systems. His work had made space travel safer and cheaper for everyone. Pirates and dangerous areas were marked on his charts, and patrol ships knew exactly where to watch for trouble. Roy's routes were like invisible roads in space that all the cargo ships followed. The routes avoided dangerous areas where pirates liked to hide, and they were designed so that if a ship had problems, help could reach it quickly. When the humans left, they took Roy's navigation charts with them. The alien ship captains still knew how to get from one star to another, but they did not know which routes were safe and which ones were dangerous. Captain Zolak of the merchant ship Star Jumper learned this lesson the hard way. He was carrying a load of medical supplies to a planet that needed them badly. Instead of following Roy's safe route, Zolak decided to take a shortcut through an area called the Broken Nebula. Roy's charts would have warned him that the Crimson Fleet pirates used the nebula as their hiding place. But Zolak did not have those charts. He flew right into a pirate trap. The pirates took his ship, his cargo, and his crew. Zolak himself barely escaped in a small rescue pod. The medical supplies that sick aliens needed never reached their destination. This same story happened over and over across the galaxy. Ships disappeared, cargo was stolen, and space became dangerous again. The Crimson Fleet grew stronger every month as they captured more ships and recruited more pirates. Scarface Corvin, the leader of the Crimson Fleet, laughed as he looked at reports of successful raids. "The galaxy's guard dogs have finally been put to sleep," he told his pirate captains. "Now we can hunt freely without fear." Admiral Pete Walsh had been the human officer in charge of anti-pirate operations. His patrol ships and smart tactics had kept the trade routes safe for years. Pete knew how pirates thought because he had been fighting them for so long. He knew where they would strike next and how to stop them. But Pete was gone now. And no alien admiral could match his skill. The alien patrol ships still flew around space, but they were always in the wrong place at the wrong time. They would arrive at a pirate attack site to find only empty space and floating wreckage. The economic damage was enormous. Insurance companies raised their prices because so many ships were being lost. Some shipping companies stopped flying to dangerous areas completely. Trade between star systems slowed down, and prices for goods went up everywhere. Elder Vex read report after report of disasters and failures. Mining accidents, medical shortages, pirate attacks. The problems seemed to be everywhere at once, but he was too proud to admit that the galaxy needed humans back. "These are just temporary problems," he told the Galactic Council. "We are adjusting to life without humans. Things will get better soon." But things did not get better. They got worse every day. Young Crix, the Zalarian student who had learned from Professor Dan White, watched the news reports with growing sadness. Every day brought stories of disasters that could have been prevented if humans were still around. Crix remembered what Professor Dan had taught him about courage and problem-solving. The professor had always said that the first step to solving any problem was admitting that the problem existed. But the adults in charge seemed unable to take that first step. "We made a terrible mistake," Crix wrote in his diary. "We threw away our friends because we were afraid of them. Now we are paying the price for our fear and pride." But Crix was just a young student, and no one listened to young students in the Galactic Council. The adults who made the decisions were too busy pretending that everything was fine to hear the truth that a young alien could see clearly. As the second year after the human exodus ended, the galaxy was beginning to understand what they had really lost. It was not just about safety systems and medical machines and navigation charts. They had lost the people who cared enough to build those things in the first place. The humans had not just been workers in the galaxy. They had been the galaxy's conscience, always trying to make things better and safer for everyone. Now that conscience was gone, and the galaxy was learning what it meant to live without it. 5 years had passed since the humans left, and the galaxy was falling apart. What started as small problems had grown into disasters that threatened entire civilizations. The worst crisis yet was about to begin, and this time it would kill billions. The Helix Plague appeared first on the crystal worlds of the silicate sector. The disease attacked silicon-based life forms, turning their crystal bodies into gray dust. It spread faster than wildfire, jumping from planet to planet as infected beings traveled through space before they knew they were sick. Dr. Amy Foster had been the galaxy's expert on silicon-based diseases. She worked at the Human Medical Research, sent her on Titan Station, where she spent 15 years studying how to cure illnesses that affected crystal beings. Amy had created vaccines and treatments that saved millions of silicon-based lives. When the first cases of Helix Plague were reported, the alien doctors immediately looked for Amy's research files. But the files were gone, taken with the humans, when they left. The doctors tried to remember what Amy had taught them, but her work was too complex for them to understand completely. The plague spread through the crystalline federation like poison in water. Entire cities of crystal beings crumbled to dust in days. The beautiful singing towers of Silicata Prime, which had made music for 1,000 years, fell silent as their crystal builders died. Commander Zex of the Crystal Guard watched helplessly as his own soldiers turned to dust before his eyes. "Send word to every medical center in the galaxy," he ordered. "Someone must know how to stop this plague." But no one knew. The alien doctors tried everything they could think of, but nothing worked. Some treatments made the plague spread faster. Others killed the patients quicker than the disease itself. Dr. Vorn of the Intergalactic Medical Council stood in his laboratory surrounded by failed experiments. Test tubes full of useless medicine covered every table. Amy Foster was the only one who truly understood silicon-based biology, he admitted to his assistants. "Without her knowledge, we are just guessing in the dark." The plague killed 12 billion crystal beings before it finally burned itself out. Entire species went extinct. Worlds that had been home to beautiful crystal cities became empty graveyards, covered in gray dust. But the medical disaster was just one of many problems destroying the galaxy. Space piracy had become so bad that entire trade routes were abandoned. The Crimson Fleet now controlled systems that used to be safe, and their leader, Scarface Corvin, was building what he called his pirate empire. Admiral Pete Walsh had kept the pirates weak by hitting them hard and fast whenever they gathered in large groups. Pete understood that pirates were like weeds. If you let them grow too strong, they would take over everything. The alien admirals tried to copy Pete's tactics, but they always failed. They would attack pirate bases after the pirates had already moved somewhere else. They would set traps that the pirates easily avoided. Some alien patrol ships even got captured by the very pirates they were hunting. The worst defeat came at the Battle of Nexus Point, where Admiral Corlix of the Vegan Space Navy tried to destroy a pirate fleet. Corlix had more ships and better weapons. But Scarface Corvin was smarter. The pirate leader used an old trick that Pete Walsh would have seen coming from light years away. Corvin pretended to retreat, leading the alien fleet into an asteroid field where more pirate ships were. Hiding, the aliens found themselves surrounded and outnumbered. Half of their fleet was destroyed, and the other half had to run away in shame. "The galaxy's navies are full of fools," Corvin laughed as he looked at the wreckage of alien warships. "Without their human guard dogs, they are helpless puppies trying to fight wolves." The pirate victory at Nexus Point was a turning point. More criminals joined the Crimson Fleet, and other pirate groups started working together instead of fighting each other. Soon the pirates controlled more space than some legitimate governments. Trade between star systems dropped to almost nothing. Companies were afraid to send cargo ships through pirate-controlled space. Food shortages began on worlds that depended on imports. Planets that used to be rich and peaceful became poor and dangerous. The infrastructure problems were just as bad as the pirates. The great hyperspace network that connected all the major star systems began having serious failures. The network had been partly designed by engineer Carol Mason, who understood how to make hyperspace travel safe and reliable. Carol's safety systems prevented ships from crashing into each other in hyperspace. Her navigation computers helped ships find their way through the strange dimensions where normal space did not exist. Most importantly, her emergency protocols could save ships that got lost in hyperspace. When the humans left, they took Carol's technical manuals with them. The alien engineers tried to maintain the hyperspace network, but they did not really understand how it worked. They could fix simple problems, but when something complicated went wrong, they were lost. The first major hyperspace accident happened to the passenger liner Star of Andromeda. The ship was carrying 3,000 alien passengers when its navigation system failed during a hyperspace jump. Instead of arriving at their destination, the ship got lost in a region of hyperspace that Carol's safety systems had marked as extremely dangerous. The rescue teams searched for weeks, but they never found the Star of Andromeda. 3,000 innocent beings simply vanished into the dark spaces between reality. Their families never learned what happened to them. More accidents followed. The cargo ship Heavy Lifter crashed into another ship during a hyperspace jump, killing everyone on both vessels. The research ship Deep Thinker got stuck between dimensions and slowly faded away as its crew sent increasingly desperate radio messages that no one could answer. The alien engineers tried to shut down the dangerous parts of the hyperspace network, but this made travel between distant star systems almost impossible. What used to be a 3-day journey now took 3 weeks, using slower-than-light engines. Dr. Rex of the Galactic Transportation Authority stared at the reports of hyperspace failures and felt hopeless. "Carol Mason's work was like magic to us," he told his team. "We used her systems every day, but we never truly understood how they worked. Now that the magic is gone, we realize we are just primitive beings playing with forces beyond our understanding." The social and political problems were getting worse too. Humans had served as mediators in most interspecies conflicts for decades. Ambassador Helen Kane and her diplomatic team had a special talent for helping different species understand each other and find peaceful solutions to their problems. Without human diplomats to help, old rivalries and hatred began to surface again. The Vegan Republic and the Corvani Empire started fighting over mining rights in the neutral zone. The Altarian Empire and the Crystalline Federation began building warships and making threats against each other. The worst conflict was called the Sector Wars, where 4 different species all claimed the same group of resource-rich star systems. In the past, Helen Kane would have brought all 4 groups together for peace talks. She would have found a way for them to share the resources fairly and everyone would have gone home happy. But Helen was gone, and the alien diplomats who tried to replace her failed completely. Each species thought only about what they wanted, not about what was fair for everyone. Instead of talking, they started shooting. The sector wars dragged on for months, destroying entire fleets and killing millions of beings. The star systems they were fighting over became worthless because all the fighting had ruined them. In the end, nobody got what they wanted, and everyone lost more than they could afford. Young beings across the galaxy who had grown up learning from human teachers felt the loss most deeply. They remembered the lessons their human teachers had taught them about kindness, courage, and working together to solve problems. Crix, the young Zalarian who had been taught by Professor Dan White, was now old enough to speak in junior council meetings. He tried to tell the adult leaders what was wrong with their approach to the galaxy's problems. "Professor Dan taught me that when you have a problem, the first step is to admit that the problem exists," Crix said to a room full of alien leaders. "The second step is to understand what caused the problem. The third step is to fix the cause, not just treat the symptoms." The adult aliens listened politely to Crix, but they did not really hear what he was saying. They were too proud to admit that their problems were caused by forcing the humans to leave. Instead, they kept trying to fix individual disasters without addressing the real cause. The Galactic Council created the Human Replacement Initiative, a program designed to recreate human innovations without humans. They spent billions of credits trying to build new medical machines, safety systems, and navigation computers, but everything they built was inferior to what the humans had created. Their medical machines worked sometimes, but failed when they were needed most. Their safety systems had dangerous flaws that caused more accidents. Their navigation computers sent ships to the wrong destinations or got them lost in space. Elder Vex, who had led the campaign to expel humans from the galaxy, was now an old alien facing the collapse of everything he had worked to protect. He sat in his office late at night, reading reports of disasters and failures that seemed to get worse every day. 8 years after the humans left, the galaxy faced its greatest threat ever. Something ancient and terrible had awakened in the dark spaces between star systems, and it was moving toward the heart of galactic civilization like a plague of metal, death. The first reports came from deep space monitoring stations on the galactic rim. Strange signals appeared on long-range sensors, massive objects moving through space in perfect formation. The objects were bigger than planets and made of metal that absorbed all light, making them nearly invisible against the darkness of space. Commander Vex of Deep Space Station Omega was the first to see them clearly. His science team had been tracking unusual energy readings for weeks when the objects finally came close enough to scan properly. "What am I looking at?" Vex asked his chief scientist, Dr. Mora. Dr. Mora's face was pale with fear as she studied the sensor readings. "According to our historical database, these are void hunters, ancient machine creatures that consume entire star systems to fuel their expansion. The database says they were defeated and put into sleep mode over 300 years ago." "Who defeated them?" Vex asked. "The records are unclear, but there are references to something called the Morrison Defense Initiative. The files are marked as classified human military archives." Vex felt cold fear creep up his spine. The answers they needed were locked away in human databases that had left with the Exodus 8 years ago. The Void Hunters moved through space like a swarm of metal locusts, stripping entire solar systems bare of resources. They did not attack planets directly. Instead, they surrounded star systems with massive harvesting machines that sucked up everything: planets, moons, asteroids, even the energy from the stars themselves. The first system to fall was Delta Serpentis, a quiet farming system on the outer rim. The Void Hunters arrived without warning and began their harvest. Within days, the system's 3 inhabited planets were gone, along with 12 million alien farmers and their families. Refugee ships that escaped the destruction brought terrifying reports to the inner systems. They did not even acknowledge our surrender signals. Captain Flix of the refugee ship New Hope reported to the Galactic Council. "They just harvested everything as if we were not alive at all." The Galactic Defense Fleet mobilized every warship it could find. Admiral Corex, the highest-ranking military officer in the galaxy, assembled a force of 3,000 ships to stop the Void Hunters. "We have the most advanced weapons in the galaxy," Admiral Corex told his fleet commanders. "These ancient machines cannot stand against our modern technology." He was wrong. The battle at Kepler Nebula was a disaster that shocked the entire galaxy. The alien fleet attacked the Void Hunters with everything they had: plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, gravity bombs that could crush planets. The Void Hunter machines absorbed the attacks like sponges soaking up water. The alien weapons actually seemed to make the mechanical creatures stronger. Worse, the Void Hunters' own weapons were beyond anything the aliens had ever seen. Beams of pure destruction reached out from the machine swarm and simply erased alien warships from existence. Entire squadrons of fighters vanished in seconds, as reality itself seemed to bend around the Void Hunter weapons. Admiral Corex watched in horror as his fleet was destroyed around him. "All ships retreat," he ordered. "Repeat, all ships retreat immediately." Less than 300 ships escaped from the battle. 3,000 of the galaxy's best warships and their crews were gone, converted into raw materials to feed the growing Void Hunter swarm. The defeat at Kepler Nebula sent panic through every civilized world in the galaxy. If the combined military might of all species could not stop the Void Hunters, what hope did anyone have? Dr. Helena Voss, a Miralan historian, worked desperately in the archives of the Great Library, searching for any information about how the Void Hunters had been defeated before. She was one of the few aliens who had always opposed the human exodus, and now she felt responsible for finding a solution. "There must be something in the old records," she muttered as she searched through thousands of files. Most of the relevant information had been classified by human military authorities and taken when they left. Finally, she found a partial file that had been overlooked. It was a fragment of a report written by someone called General Kate Murphy, dated over 3 centuries ago. The file was badly corrupted, but Helena could make out a few key phrases. Void Hunter weakness discovered, quantum resonance frequency, deployment of Morrison shields, enemy retreat to dormancy coordinates. Unknown! Helena's hands shook as she realized what she was reading. Humans had fought the Void Hunters before, and won. General Kate Murphy had found a way to defeat them using something called Morrison shields and quantum resonance frequencies. But the technical details were missing. The file was just a summary report, not a manual that explained how the victory had been achieved. The real information was locked away in human military databases that were now somewhere in the unknown reaches of space. Helena ran to the Galactic Council chambers, where emergency sessions had been meeting around the clock since the Kepler disaster. She found the council members arguing about evacuation plans and surrender terms. "I have found the answer," Helena announced, interrupting the debates. "The humans defeated the Void Hunters before. General Kate Murphy developed weapons and tactics that forced them back into dormancy." Elder Vex, now very old and tired, looked up from the evacuation reports. "Even if that is true, the humans are gone. We expelled them from our galaxy, remember? Your opposition to that decision is well documented, Dr. Voss." "Then we must find them," Helena said firmly. "We must swallow our pride and ask for their help. It is either that or watch our entire civilization get consumed by these machines." The council chamber erupted in angry voices. Many species leaders were still too proud to admit they needed human help. Others argued that it was too late, that the humans would never forgive them for the exodus. But as reports came in of more systems falling to the Void Hunters, even the proudest aliens began to realize they had no choice. The mechanical swarm was consuming star systems faster than anyone could evacuate them. At their current rate of expansion, they would reach the core worlds within 2 months. The council voted to authorize the Great Search, a desperate mission, to locate human settlements beyond the galactic rim. They assembled a fleet of their fastest exploration ships and equipped them with the most powerful sensors available. Captain Bill Torres volunteered to lead the search mission aboard his ship, Last Hope. Bill was a Terran-born alien whose family had lived on Earth for generations before the Exodus. He knew humans better than most aliens, and he understood how they thought. "We are looking for people who left us 8 years ago because we treated them badly," Bill told his crew. "When we find them, we will have to admit we were wrong and ask them to risk their lives to save us. This will not be easy." The search ships spread out across the galactic rim, following faint energy signatures and ancient star charts that might show where humans had gone. They transmitted on all frequencies, hoping to make contact with human settlements. "This is the Galactic Council vessel. Last hope calling any human settlement," Bill broadcast into the darkness. "We are seeking contact with human authorities regarding a galaxy-wide emergency. Please respond if you can hear this message." For weeks, there was only silence from the dark spaces beyond the rim. Some of the search captains began to think the humans had traveled so far that they would never be found. Others worried that humans might be dead, victims of some disaster in unexplored space. Then Captain Sarah Kim of the search ship, Far Wanderer, detected something that made her heart race. Her long-range sensors had picked up artificial structures in a star system that was not supposed to be inhabited. "I am reading massive construction activity," Sarah reported to the search fleet. "Multiple space stations, shipyards, and what looks like city-sized orbital platforms. The energy signatures are consistent with human technology, but much more advanced than anything they had when they left." More search ships converged on Sarah's coordinates, and what they found amazed them. The humans had not just survived in exile. They had built a civilization that was more advanced and beautiful than anything in the old galaxy. Gleaming cities floated in space around a yellow star very much like Earth's sun. The cities were works of art, with flowing curves and gardens that could be seen from space. Massive ships moved between the cities, but these were not warships. They were transports carrying families and trade goods. "Look at those ships," whispered Dr. Yex, the science officer on Last Hope. "Their hull designs are at least 50 years ahead of our best technology, and I am reading 0 weapons signatures. These are purely peaceful vessels." Captain Torres, "Open communication channels on all frequencies." "This is Captain Bill Torres of the Galactic Council search vessel Last Hope. We are seeking contact with human authorities regarding an emergency in our home galaxy. Please respond." The response came quickly, but it was not what Torres expected. Instead of a military officer or government official, a gentle female voice answered, "This is traffic control for the new Terra system. Welcome, travelers from the old galaxy. We have been expecting you for some time." President Nancy Adams led Captain Torres and his crew into a meeting room that overlooked the beautiful human cities floating in space. The room was simple and comfortable, with no fancy decorations or symbols of power. Nancy offered them tea and asked them to sit down like old friends visiting for a chat. "We know about the Void Hunters," Nancy said, before Torres could explain why he had come. "Our deep space monitors have been tracking them since they woke up 6 months ago. We also know about the plague that killed the crystal beings, the pirate attacks, the hyperspace accidents, and all the other problems the galaxy has faced since we left." Torres felt embarrassed and ashamed. "Then you know we made terrible mistakes. We drove away the very people who were trying to help us. We let fear and pride blind us to the truth about who our real friends were." Nancy nodded sadly. "Yes, we know. But we also know that good people can make bad decisions when they are afraid. The question now is whether the galaxy is ready to make better decisions. The Void Hunters will consume everything if we cannot stop them," Torres said desperately. "Our military forces are no match for their technology. We found records that say General Kate Murphy defeated them once before, but we do not have the technical details. We need human help to save our civilization." Nancy was quiet for a long moment, looking out at the peaceful cities where human families lived and worked without fear. "General Kate Murphy was my grandmother," she said finally. "I have studied her records all my life. Yes, we know how to defeat the Void Hunters, but the cost of that knowledge was very high." She turned to face Torres directly. "My grandmother's victory came at a terrible price. Thousands of human soldiers died in that war. Entire human colonies were sacrificed to buy time for the final attack. The galaxy benefited from their sacrifice, but the galaxy also forgot about it very quickly." Torres felt the weight of history pressing down on him. The humans had already paid in blood to save the galaxy once, and they had been rewarded with exile and hatred. "If we help you again," Nancy continued, "what guarantee do we have that the same thing will not happen in 10 or 20 years? What assurance can you give us that the galaxy will not decide once more that humans are too dangerous to live among civilized beings?" Torres thought carefully before answering. "I cannot speak for the entire galaxy, President Adams, but I can tell you that 8 years without humans have taught us what we really lost when you left. We lost our teachers, our protectors, our conscience. We lost the people who cared enough to make things better for everyone." He paused and looked around the room at Nancy's peaceful advisors. "We also learned what you gained when you left us. You built something beautiful here. Something better than anything we have in the old galaxy. Maybe the question is not whether we deserve your help, but whether you should risk losing this paradise to save people who treated you so badly." Nancy smiled for the first time since the meeting began. "That is exactly the right question, Captain Torres, and I think I know the answer." 3 days later, the largest human fleet ever assembled emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the old galaxy. But these were not the small defensive ships that had left 8 years ago. These were massive vessels that hummed with advanced technology, far beyond anything the aliens had ever seen. Admiral Rick Stone commanded the fleet from his flagship New Terra, a ship so large it could carry entire cities inside its hull. But the ship's weapons were sealed away behind heavy armor plating, and its shields were designed for protection, not attack. "All ships, this is Admiral Stone," he broadcast to both his fleet and the alien forces gathering to meet them. "We come in peace to offer aid to those who need it. We are not conquerors returning to reclaim territory. We are doctors coming to heal a sick patient." The alien response was mixed. Some species welcomed the human fleet with joy and relief. Others were suspicious and afraid, wondering if the humans had come back to take revenge for their exile. Elder Vex, now ancient and frail, was among the alien leaders who came to meet the human fleet. He had spent 8 years watching his galaxy fall apart, and he knew that human help was the only hope for survival. "Admiral Stone," Vex said during their first meeting, "I owe you and your people an apology that is 8 years overdue. We were wrong about humans. We let fear make us stupid, and our stupidity almost destroyed everything we claimed to be protecting." Rick Stone studied the old alien leader for a moment. Vex looked tired and defeated. Nothing like the proud and arrogant figure who had led the campaign to expel humans from the galaxy. "Apology accepted, Elder Vex," Rick said simply. "Now let us talk about how to save your galaxy." The human plan to defeat the Void Hunters was brilliant in its simplicity. General Kate Murphy's old records showed that the mechanical creatures were not truly alive, but they were not simple machines either. They were quantum entities that existed partially in normal space and partially in hyperspace. Dr. Chris Parker, the human fleet's chief scientist, explained the strategy to the combined alien and human command staff. The Void Hunters draw their power from quantum energy that flows between dimensions. If we can disrupt that energy flow, they will lose power and go back into dormancy. How do we disrupt quantum energy? Asked Admiral Corex, the alien officer who had survived the disaster at Kepler Nebula. We use something my grandmother called Morrison shields, Chris explained. They are not shields in the traditional sense. They are quantum resonance generators that create interference patterns in hyperspace. When enough of them work together, they can cut off the Void Hunter's power source. The plan required perfect coordination between human and alien forces. The aliens would provide ships and crews to carry the Morrison shield generators, while humans would provide the technical expertise to operate them. Both sides would have to trust each other completely for the plan to work. Some alien leaders were uncomfortable with this arrangement. How do we know the humans will not use these quantum weapons against us after the Void Hunters are defeated? Asked Commander Zix of the Vegan Defense Force. President Nancy Adams, who had come with the fleet, answered that question. Because we had the same weapons 8 years ago, and we chose to leave peacefully rather than fight you with them. If we wanted to conquer the galaxy, we would have done it then when you were unprepared. We are not here to rule over you. We are here to save you. The combined fleet moved toward the advancing Void Hunter swarm, which had consumed 15 more star systems, while the humans and aliens were preparing their response. Time was running out, and there would be no second chance if the plan failed. The battle began at the edge of the Vortex Nebula, where the Void Hunters had stopped to harvest a cluster of neutron stars. The mechanical creatures had grown larger and more numerous since their awakening, fed by the matter and energy they had consumed. Admiral Stone coordinated the attack from his command ship, while Dr. Parker monitored the quantum resonance generators. The Morrison shields had to be positioned in a perfect geometric pattern around the Void Hunter swarm, with each generator precisely tuned to create the right interference frequency. First wave of shield generators is in position, reported Captain Janet Cole from her position ship Guardian. Quantum resonance is stable and building. Second wave moving to coordinates, called out Commander Torres, who had volunteered to pilot one of the shield ships despite having no military training. The Void Hunters detected the human strategy and began attacking the shield generator ships with desperate fury. But the alien escort vessels fought bravely. To protect them, led by Admiral Corex, who seemed determined to redeem himself for his previous defeat. They are throwing everything they have at us, Corex reported, as his ship shook under Void Hunter fire. We cannot hold these positions much longer. Understood, Admiral, Stone replied. Dr. Parker, what is our status on the quantum field? Almost there, Chris called out from his instruments. Resonance is at 85% and climbing. We need 30 more seconds. Those 30 seconds felt like hours as alien and human ships fought side by side against the mechanical swarm. Several shield generator ships were destroyed, but their crews had enough time to transfer their equipment to backup vessels. Resonance field at 100%, Chris announced. Activating Morrison shields now. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The Void Hunter machines simply stopped moving as their quantum power source was cut off. The massive creatures that had seemed unstoppable moments before became floating metal hulks drifting helplessly through space. It worked, whispered Admiral. Corex in amazement. The ancient monsters are sleeping again. But Admiral Stone knew the victory was only temporary. All ships begin recovery operations. We need to collect every piece of Void Hunter technology and store it safely. If even one small fragment survives, they could regenerate in a few thousand years. The cleanup operation took weeks, but humans and aliens worked together to make sure every trace of the Void Hunter threat was contained. The mechanical creatures were broken down into harmless components and stored in quantum-sealed containers that would keep them dormant forever. During the recovery operation, something unexpected happened. Aliens and humans working side by side began to remember why they had been friends in the first place.